Mount is one of the very best positions in jiu-jitsu. There's only one or two that people consider to be better, and one of those is the back. The problem is, especially if your opponent is inexperienced or if they're tired and you're mounting them, they're very uncomfortable, they're going to want to do whatever it takes to get out of the mount. So a lot of times they're going to turn to their knees. Now, Napoleon once said, never interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake, and that's what we want to do here. Even though generally with mount, we want to levy a lot of pressure, if we feel our buddy trying to turn to his knees, we can take off a little of that pressure and control the roll. And I'm going to show you how to do that, as well as flattening our buddy out at the end, which is really the worst position in all fighting, your partner on your back with you flattened out. So Helios is on his back, and I'm mounted, right? Usually this happens either because someone is inexperienced or untrained, or because they're very explosive and they think they can just turn to their knees and get out, or they're tired and desperate and they're just like, this is awful. You've been cooking me under here for like 5 minutes and I'm just ready to be done. So what he's gonna do is he's just gonna try to turn, and like usually what's in their mind if something is he's gonna try to roll to his knees and then tripod up and buck you off. So as he tries to do that, I just lift my hips a little, throw my hook. You're gonna need to get your hips under you so that I can flatten you. So like come to the turtle, yeah, there we go. Right? He's trying to get the turtle. Don't worry, he gets flattened a little bit later. So you notice how this arm comes over the shoulder? That's because I want him moving into the choke. So this is my choking hand. You notice how my other hand comes under? That's because this is my control hand. And we'll talk about back control later, but mostly because he's rolling this way, I want this hand to be over. So in case we were just to keep rolling, he would roll right into the choke. I also want you to notice that my hook is already in on the near side. Because if someone is much more athletic and explosive than me, and they're gonna keep being able to turn me that way, I want to have this bottom hook so I can continue to control them. And I may show you what that looks like at the end of the video. So I do have one hook, and now I'm gonna throw the second hook. And so you can see where we have the back. And we'll talk about fundamentals of back control in the back control video, but my sternum is against his spine, and my head is next to his head. But now, so I do have the back, and I can always threaten chokes here as well as strikes and things of that nature. But now I want to flatten him out. So ideally, I'm going to have one hand under, one hand over, and I'm just going to grip his wrist. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to push my hips down while my legs extend back, and I try to pull his hand toward his own belt line. As I flatten him out, you see how I can pretty much do what I want. Elias, get up.
Definitely not.
Yeah, this is one of the worst, this is probably, for my money, the worst position in all forms of fighting, whether there's strikes involved or not. It's because in order to even get back to -20, which is what the back is, he has to get his hips underneath him. And when you are on top of him, go ahead and get back. When you're on top of him, essentially in the sort of scorpion pose, you're driving your hips all the way into him, flattening him out. Let's do that one more time. So again, mostly we call this take the back with roll control, because the worst case scenario is he just does a sort of Yosemite Sam or a Sonic the Hedgehog roll and we just fall off him. So it's really important that we be able to control this roll. The way we're going to control this roll is this hand, whichever direction he goes, hand over the shoulder and throw that hook. So he gets on his side, hook comes in, and see how he's up on his back, up on his knees now. So some guys, like I said, I want to take advantage of this hand by keeping this hand over so that I can choke him either with a rear naked choke or grab his collar. But sometimes guys are much bigger and stronger, and it's going to be difficult for you to flatten them out with only one hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go double unders, grab both wrists. My chest comes up, my hips come down as I roll his wrists forward. My instructor, Seth Champ, when he was demonstrating this technique, he used to pick out the biggest and strongest guy in a room and say, hey, let me get you to this position and see if I can flatten you out. Never seen anybody not get flattened out from this position. So a couple of quick takeaways. Whichever way they roll, make sure your choking hand is over and make sure that your hook is on that side. So if they continue to roll, you still wind up with back control. And once you get on top, use your hands on their wrists and your hips into their hips as your legs extend. Flatten them out in one of the worst positions in fighting.